Hello and welcome to episode 4 on the channel, where today I'll be discussing the big topic, the FBS playoff system, and the true question at hand, which is, should we expand from 4 teams to 8 in that system? Now, I believe that we should be expanding, and not only should be expanded, we should have done it years ago. The fact that we only went to 4 to begin with was ridiculous, and I think was an attempt to keep the big bowls involved. Now, there's a lot of reasons why 4 was always a short-sighted notion. The first is that there are 5 major conferences in college football. So no matter what, let's say that each conference had a champion go undefeated, we would have to screw somebody in that format. And it almost happened this year where we nearly had to screw 2 conferences. And it's happened multiple times. And the biggest problem with that is, who are we to say who the best conference is year in and year out? The conferences only play non-conference games against one another for 2 to 3 weeks out of the whole season. And of those 2 to 3 weeks, many teams, many big teams, play cupcake opponents. They don't play teams that are seriously a threat to them. Most of the teams don't. We only get a couple of games from which we're supposed to theorize who the best conference is based on a tiny sample size. And then we're supposed to decide who the best conferences are based on what we speculated. I think it's too much margin for error. There's nobody who could get that right. It doesn't matter if you have a playoff committee. And the committee is another issue to talk about another time. But listen, the committee has an impossible job. They have to figure out which conference is the conference we're going to screw this year. Whose champion isn't going to make it in? And that's the question that we're forced to ask ourselves every year under the current playoff format. So that's the first problem. We have 5 major conferences and only 4 teams that are going to get in, which, again, it just is foolish. I don't know why you want to keep a system that is that inherently flawed in how it's set up. All right, and so I'm going to talk very briefly about some of the arguments you'll hear people make against expanding the playoff. The most common one is it'll water the thing down. It'll water down college football. The regular season won't matter. People will tune out. Okay, let's say we even went to 8. For give you a little background, let's talk about every other level of football in terms of percentage of teams that will make it in. All right, we start at the bottom. The NAIA, there are 90 teams in the NAIA, 16 of whom will make the playoff. That is only 17%. Okay, and to make the 17%, you still have to be pretty darn good to get in there. And so that's 17%. You go to the next highest level, D3, there are 250 teams, 24 make it, that's 10%. So 10% of all of D3, all those schools will make it into that playoff. Again, pretty exclusive. You go to Division 2. All right, Division 2 is 16%. 150 teams there are about 150 teams. 28 teams make Division 2 playoffs. That's 16%. All right, then you go to the FCS. Okay, there are 126 FCS teams. 24 will make it into the tournament. That is 19%. 19% right there. You go to the NFL. 32 teams in the NFL, 12 teams make the playoffs. That is 37% of the league in that playoff. And then you go to FBS football. Currently, there are 130 teams in FBS football, and only 4 make it. That is 3%. Right now, we're talking 3%. Even if you expanded to 8, that would make it 6%, which is still far and away the most exclusive playoff format of anything imaginable. All right, and they try to say, so the watering down idea, it would still be by far the most exclusive playoff system in all of college football, and quite frankly, in all of sports. Now, I don't want us to go any higher than 8, because I think 8 is the perfect number. You go higher than that, then yes, they have a point. You start watering down the regular season, especially if you're not going to do this by the traditional playoff format and award the higher seed with the home field. But the reason they won't do that is because they're trying to keep the bowl games involved, and the money is not going to go to the places that they want it to go to. And that really is the rub on this whole thing. All right, the wrong people are going to get the money. There's no question a playoff system would produce more revenue. There's no question that it would not be It would not water down the system. It would not water down the regular season. So those arguments are, again, ridiculous. It would be by far the most exclusive playoff format. All right, the next thing you'll hear is that it's tradition. Oh, it's tradition. Oh, the Rose Bowl, the Sugar Bowl. These games, all right, these games are all glorified exhibitions, which is why you're seeing a lot of top players just skipping them. And the thing is, I don't blame them. Why would you risk major injury to play in what is essentially an exhibition game? It really doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean much at all. Okay, now if you're a regular player, then fine, play in the game. But the thing is, a lot of players just simply aren't going to care about these games. Nick Saban has complained that, well, we've made it all about the playoff. Well, yeah, because those are the only games that mean anything. The rest of these games don't mean a thing, and it just doesn't matter what you attach to them. And so, again, guys like Nick Saban, guys who are saying that, like, we should just listen to tradition, they are the same people who were telling us to be okay with the BCS system. All right, these were the same people. If we listened to these people, we would still be stuck with the archaic, most un-American system that had ever been devised in all of sports. We would still have it if we'd been listening to those people. So the fact that we've even gotten this far is because we've listened to the people like me and the general public at large. I would guarantee if you polled this question, the American public wants 8 teams. They want 8 teams. 8 teams would get you all 5 conference champions, and then it would give you 3 at-larges from 3 teams who we think are deserving of playing for a national title. That would encapsulate everybody who could conceivably win a title, and it would even give us a chance to watch a Cinderella run, which right now, it's as Danny Cannell put it, it's the blue blood invitational. It's not a playoff. There's nothing playoff about it. And the playoff committee, I don't blame them for putting the same teams in every year because you can't afford to take a chance. We can't let a team that's not a blue blood in here because they could just get dominated, and then those games won't get watched. All right. So another thing that you're going to hear people say is, "Well, it'd be too many games. It'd be too many games. Like you can't ask kids to play this many games," and it's again total baloney. I've heard people make this argument and say and act as if FBS football is just so much different. Like that's too many games. These guys are way too beat up, and there's too many teams that are all beat up in there. You couldn't do that many games. As if FBS football is in a world on its own. As if nobody would even listen to this. Okay, in the NFL they have 16 regular season games. If you went to an 8-team playoff format and even if you didn't shave a game off of the regular season to do that, you would still be stuck with the national champion, okay, would only play 15 games. That's all that's how many you'd play. If you played for the national championship, you'd play 15 games. That is still 1 game fewer than NFL players play in the whole season. That is the same number FCS players play. And as if, again, they act like FBS football is in a league all by itself. You can't compare anything to it. The players, I guess, are somehow more physical than NFL players, I guess. And so that's where that argument comes from. So there is no good reason for us not to go to 8. There really isn't. Okay, the people who are saying that are all status quo. The Colin Cowherds, the Kirk Herbstreits, the Reese Davises, all of them. They are status quo. They were the same people that were defending the BCS system when we had it. And we can't listen to them. So that is the big thing at hand, and is the question that college football is going to have moving forward. Are we going to get a playoff system that the American people want and that the American public would love to see, and it would be rewarded with huge ratings? And the other thing we need to start doing is, if you're going to go to that playoff system, I believe the first round would have to be, and it should be, awarded based on the higher seed. Home field should go to the higher seed. They need to get away from these bowl games. The bowl games, the reason why we haven't gone further than that, I really believe, is because they feel we have to keep the bowls in there, and so they're trying to make the playoffs coincide with the bowls. Like, they don't understand. We're going to have to go away from them at some point, and I'm waiting for that to happen. So that is our show for today, and If you like the video, press the like button, subscribe if you want to, leave a comment if you agree or disagree down below. Love to hear your feedback.